I'm 62 years old, and I'm sitting in a $10 a night room in Manila with a ceiling fan that barely moves the humid air, and all I can think about is Mary. Mary, my wife of 40 years, the woman who raised my kids, who held my hand through 2 layoffs, who sat with me in a hospital waiting room at 3 in the morning without a single complaint. I blew that up. I burned it to the ground because a 26-year-old girl named Joy sent me a smiley face on Facebook. I walked away from my marriage, I split our retirement savings in half, and I handed my half, $350,000, to a woman who was running a financial operation from the moment she first typed, "Good morning, po sir," with a little sun emoji. If you are out there right now, talking to a young Filipina online, telling yourself your wife just doesn't understand you anymore, that you've grown apart, that you deserve something more, I need you to stop whatever you're doing and hear every word of what I'm about to say. Because what happened to me is not just a scam story. It is a karma story. And karma, I can tell you from personal experience, is not a concept. It is a weight you carry every single morning you wake up broke and alone in a country that isn't yours. If you are serious about protecting what you've spent your whole life building, your savings, your family, your dignity, hit subscribe right now. I don't post often, but when I do, it costs me something to say it out loud. Take the lesson for free because I paid for it in ways that can't be measured in dollars. Mary and I met in 1982. She was a nursing student at Ohio State. I was working nights at a shipping company, saving up for something I hadn't figured out yet. We built everything together over 40 years. The house in Westerville, the 2 kids, the pension, the Friday night routine that we'd had for so long neither of us could remember who started it. For 4 decades, we were a team, and I want to be clear about this because it matters to the rest of the story. I was not trapped. I was not miserable. I was not suffering. I was restless. That is the honest word. Restless and stupid and dangerously open to flattery from a stranger on a phone screen. I was pushing 60. My logistics supervisor job was being quietly downsized. My bad knee was slowing me down, and somewhere in the back of my head I had started to feel like the second half of my life was already written, and I hadn't been consulted. I found the Philippines expat forums online somewhere around 2019. Men my age talking about the weather, the food, the low cost of living. "You can live like a king for $1,500 a month," one guy kept repeating in every thread. I read those forums for 3 months while Mary was asleep in the next room. And then there was Joy. She messaged me first. Some Facebook group for expats in Cebu. Her profile photo showed a small, dark-haired woman in a modest dress standing in front of a garden. She looked clean and wholesome and nothing like a threat. She wrote that greeting with the sun emoji, and I responded because it seemed harmless enough. That was the first crack in the wall, and I walked right through it without looking down. We talked every single day for 6 months. She called me baby within the first 2 weeks. She sent photos of herself cooking rice, going to mass, taking care of younger siblings. She told me she had never had a serious relationship because she was waiting for a real man, a mature man, a man with values and patience, not like the young Filipino men she described as useless and immature. She said I was exactly what she had been praying for. She said God had sent me to her. Meanwhile, I was lying to Mary, not loudly, the quiet kind of lying that is somehow worse because it gives you nowhere to put the guilt. Staying up late with my phone in the bathroom, pulling back at dinner, going quieter and quieter in the house we'd shared for 30 years. I built an entire courthouse inside my own head, judged the marriage guilty without any real evidence, and started writing the verdict. I told myself we had grown apart. I told myself neither of us was happy anymore. I told myself it was kinder to leave than to stay. None of it was true. All of it felt necessary. I filed for divorce in the spring of 2022. Mary did not see it coming. I still remember the way her face moved when I handed her the papers. First confused, then very quiet. She didn't scream. She didn't throw anything. She just looked at me and said, "Bob, is this really what you want?" And I said yes. I took my half of our retirement, $350,000 that we had built together over a lifetime, and I booked a one-way ticket to Cebu. My daughter called 3 times the week before I left, and I let every call go to voicemail. My son sent a text that said, "Dad, this is insane." I did not reply to either of them. When I landed at Mactan Airport and Joy ran to me in that same modest dress with her arms around my neck and her voice warm against my ear saying, "You're finally here, baby." For about 48 hours, I felt like I had made the right call. 48 hours. That was the entire return on 40 years of marriage and a $350,000 investment in a fantasy. I should have trusted the 3 missed calls from my daughter. The first 2 months were everything the forums had promised. Joy cooked every meal. She introduced me to her neighbors with this visible pride, like I was the most important man in the province. She took me to Mass on Sundays and held my hand in the pew. She laughed at every story I told, even the ones Mary had heard enough times to finish for me. She asked about my life back home with an expression of genuine fascination, and I filled the silence with 30 years of memories I'd never had anyone new to tell. I need you to understand how the trap works before I keep going, because understanding it is the only defense. It is specifically engineered to hit every vulnerability a man like me carries. The loneliness, the bruised ego, the hunger for fresh admiration after decades of being taken for granted. Every warm gesture, every attentive question, every soft look, all of it was calibrated. I know that now. Back then, it felt like proof that I'd made the right choice. The money started moving in month 3. The first request was small. Her younger brother needed school supplies, about $50. "Fine," I said, happy to help. Then her mother needed a water pump replacement for the garden, 8,000 pesos. Then an uncle in Mindanao had been in a moped accident, and the provincial hospital was asking for 35,000 pesos before they would treat him. She sent me a blurry photograph of a man in a hospital bed attached to what looked like a blood pressure cuff. I wired the money within the hour. I can map the pattern perfectly now. Every single emergency had 3 components: urgency, family loyalty, and a photograph just blurry enough to be unverifiable. A dark room, a grainy face, a clinic receipt with a name I couldn't search online. And after every payment, she would cry and hold my face and call me the most kind and generous man she had ever known. The reinforcement was surgical. I was being trained the way you train an animal, and I sat there wagging my tail. In month 5, she started talking about a house. Her family was renting a cramped concrete shack in the province, she said. Her parents were getting old. "Wouldn't it be wonderful," she said one quiet evening, "if we could build something of our own out there? A real home, simple and sturdy, a garden, a porch where we'd sit in the evenings and watch the light go." She made it sound exactly like peace. I know now that speech was rehearsed. I know now she had given it to at least one man before me. We agreed on a budget of $60,000. Because Philippine law does not allow foreigners to own land, the title went in her name. My attorney, a man another expat had recommended, who charged me $300 for 30 minutes of vague reassurance, told me it was standard practice. Lots of foreigners do it this way, he said. So I signed. $60,000 of the retirement money I had helped build with my wife, in the name of a woman I had known for 8 months. I told myself it was different because we were in love, because I had left my whole life for her, because there was no going back, so this simply had to work. I started learning Tagalog quietly, on my phone, at night. Not for any specific reason. I was lonely in a way I hadn't anticipated. Joy was physically present, but spent hours in the next room on her phone, laughing at things she never explained. She would go dark screen when I walked in. I told myself it was privacy, cultural difference, nothing to worry about. After 4 months of quiet study, I could catch fragments. Enough. One afternoon, Joy was on a video call and didn't hear me come to the doorway. I heard a man's voice, young, deep, fast Tagalog, but I caught the words I had learned first because they are the words that matter. Mahal kita, I love you. Then Joy's laugh, the specific warm laugh she used to give me in the first months. I did not confront her that day. I went to a coffee shop and sat alone for 3 hours. Then I called a Canadian friend from the expat forum who had tried to warn me months before. Tell her you lost your pension, he said. Tell her the Social Security payments stopped. Watch what happens. On a Thursday evening, I sat Joy down and told her calmly that I had received an email from my U.S. bank. A fraud alert had frozen my accounts. I had no idea how long the resolution would take. Weeks, maybe longer. The change was not dramatic. It was a dimming. The way a light goes when someone slowly turns the dial. She went quiet. She answered my dinner questions in short sentences. She went to bed early. By day 5, she was inventing reasons to stay at her mother's place. By day 8, she had moved most of her clothes. She never officially ended anything. She simply evaporated, leaving behind a $60,000 house with her name on the deed and bank transfer records showing I had sent over $180,000 to her and her family in 22 months. I tried to speak with a Philippine attorney about the property. He told me the case would take years and cost tens of thousands more. He had seen it before. He said that with a measured quietness that told me he had seen it many times. I called my daughter from that office. She picked up, which surprised me. I said I was sorry. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, I know, Dad. Not, it's okay, just, I know. That difference told me more about where I stood than anything else that had happened in the previous 2 years. I found out from a neighbor weeks later that the man on the video call was Joy's boyfriend, a local, 28 years old. They had been together since before she ever sent me that first message with the sun emoji. He was probably driving the motorcycle she bought with what she told me was an emergency fund for her mother. That is the thing I need you to hear. I was not a romance. I was a transaction. And the worst part, the part that sits with me every single morning, is that I had destroyed something real and true to become one. I am in Manila now, $10 a night. The walls are thin enough to hear the family next door. The roosters start at 4 in the morning, and no one tells them to stop. I live on my Social Security check, about $1,400 a month, which is enough to survive here if I am careful, but not enough to go home. Home. I need to say something about that word. The house on Claiborne Drive in Westerville, Ohio, the one I helped pay for over 30 years, does not exist for me anymore either. Mary sold it in 2023. She is doing better now, from what my daughter tells me on the calls that come about once a month. My son has not called in over a year. I want to be direct with you about the thing I have the hardest time saying. Joy did not destroy my life. I destroyed my life. Joy was a scammer and a liar, and everything she said to me was calculated, yes. But I handed her the tools. I looked at 40 years of loyalty and a woman who had never once stopped showing up for me, and I decided it was not enough. That decision is mine. I own it completely. If you are watching this and you are thinking about leaving your wife for someone younger overseas, you are not special. You are not the exception. Every man who loses everything thought he was going to be the exception. What you have at home, the ordinary, imperfect, real life you have built, is worth more than you are capable of understanding right now. You will only understand it when it is gone. I am the proof of that. And if your marriage is genuinely over, end it cleanly and honestly. But do not end a 40-year commitment because a stranger on a phone screen told you what you wanted to hear in the dark. That is not courage. That is not freedom. That is a 62-year-old man in a $10 room in Manila, wondering if his daughter will still be returning his calls in 5 years. There are more men like me here than you would think. I see them in the cheap coffee shops in the morning. Older, quiet, with a specific look that I recognized immediately the first time I saw it in my own mirror. We don't talk about it much, but we know. Subscribe right now. Every video I make is something that cost me more than I expected to pay. Take the lesson here, for free. Learn from me instead of paying for the same education with your own retirement savings, your own family, your own 40 years of something real. I was a decent man once. I may still be, underneath everything. But decent men make catastrophic mistakes when they stop paying attention to what actually matters. Don't be me.